Okay, so hello, my name is Alex. I'm from the US, and today we will be speaking about my favorite topic, which is the differences between British and American English. So we'll speak about history, a little bit vocabulary, spelling, pronunciation, and grammar. Okay, so the first thing I want to speak about is the language itself, right? So let's speak about English and what is English. So English is a a Western Germanic language, which is quite unique amongst all of the Germanic languages. You may ask, why is it unique? Well, because of its origin, right? It is considered to be the Germanic language. However, its vocabulary is mostly not Germanic, right? As you may think. So, if we're speaking about its vocabulary, it's 26% Germanic, 29% Latin, 29% French, 4% Greek, 4% original English words, and 6% unknown origin. So we don't really know where it came from. Okay, so it resembles German, for the German language, right? It's called Germanic, resembles German in phrases like very basic core phrases. For example, in German you would say, like, okay, in English you say, what is it, right? This is good, would say. So in German they would say, was ist das? Das ist good. So that shows that it's a Germanic language and it relates to German. So if we're speaking about French language, yeah, how it resembles the French language. So all of the words ending in tion, like station or obligation, so they're all French. For example, in English we say station, in French we say station, or obligation, in French we say obligation. Or for example, in English we say obligatory, in French they say obligatoire, for example. So that's what it shows. Also, in English, some concepts, they have two words. One comes from Germanic languages, and the second word comes from Latin languages, or for example, French. Yeah, if we're speaking about food or animals, for example, yeah, if we're speaking about food and animals, we have the word cow and the word beef, right? So cow, it's a Germanic word, but for food, we don't say I want to eat some cow. We say beef, right? So beef, it comes from French. They say bœuf. Or for example, when you say pork, right? We would like to eat somewhere like the Muslims don't eat pork. So we don't say don't eat pigs, right? We say pork, because the word pork comes from French. The word pig comes from English, Germanic. Pigga, the old English for pig is pigga. The same applies to swine, yeah? So, for example, the old German word Schweine, for example, in English it's swine, right? Or, for example, sheep, yeah? We don't say, oh, they eat sheep there. They say we say we eat lamb, like this. Or we may say welcome, or reception. Reception comes from French, which means like we receive people, we welcome people. We may say both. But so reception is more like of a higher register, whereas welcome is of a lower register. So that's how it works. And why is it like this? Because back in the day, so in England, right, in the British Isles, French was the language of aristocracy over higher level, where English was the language of the lower class, right? So, and why is it like that? So let's speak about the history of the language itself, right? So we have the British Isles. So we had some Celtic people living then. Then the Romans came, the Romans, yeah, from our Roman Empire. Then they left, right? And then we had these people coming from where it is now Germany, yeah. So with Angles and Saxons and Jutes. So they came from where now Germany is, and from where now what is it, Denmark is, right? So we have this Anglo-Saxons coming. So they came to the British Isles, and then they were mixing up together and developing their own language. Then the Vikings came, mixed up with them. They had like wars and stuff, but they still mixed up with them. They took their words. Then the Romans came, not the Romans, sorry, Normans. So who were the Normans? They're French. They spoke French, like French Vikings, right, from the north of France. They came, they conquered England, right? So they brought their language with them, French language, and so this completely suppressed. They completely suppressed the English language, the old English language. So only peasants and like lower class of people spoke that language. Again, education, church, court, they all spoke French. So, and then after a few centuries, the English, they kicked the French out because French, they were losing their power. So they kicked them out, but the English language already changed, and it still retained the French words, right? The big words, scientific words, right? That applies to food, for example, that I was talking about it already. So, and then this language was developing into the Middle English and then the modern English. And in 1600s, so the British Empire, they starting their colonization, their expansion around the world. And then some of them came to North America and they started colonizing this part of the world. So this split happened. And these people came to America, they're settlers, right? So they started developing their own language. Why? Because they came to the new land, they had new concepts, they had new conditions, new animals, new plants, new things, and they had to create their own words for it. Whereas British English, people who stayed in England, they had their own kind of dialect, and these two languages started developing in their own way. Okay, well, and the same way goes for Canada. We have Canadian English, and Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and many, many, many other countries where English is spoken today. So that's why we have so many variations. But you have to remember, the language is still the same. It's the variations that make a difference, right? The language is still the same, pretty much. Maybe the difference in accents and different vocabulary, grammatically, it's all the same. We'll speak about it later a little bit. So Now, let's speak about American English and British English differences themselves. I can't really speak for Australian or New Zealand. I don't really know anything about it. I've heard them. I have some friends from Australia and New Zealand. Of course, their pronunciation is a bit different. They sound more British. They have their own words, but we pretty much can understand each other, having no problems. But okay, let's speak about vocabulary of American and British English. What's the difference? For example, first I will speak about the British English vocabulary and then American English vocabulary. For example, in British English they say football. In America they say soccer. In Britain they say autumn, right? In America they say fall. By the way, the word fall is a very old English word. It's not a made-up word. It's the old English word. Then we have resume and CV in the US, maize in Britain, and corn in the US. Curtains in Britain, drapes in America, flat in Britain, apartment in the US. Wardrobe in Britain, closet in the US. Nappy in England, that's what you rub the baby in. Diaper in American English. Trousers in British. Pants in American. Handbag, that's what girls carry in Britain, and purse in America. Bill is something that you, when you go to a restaurant, you need to pay. You ask, can I have a bill in Britain, and check in the US. Aubergine in Britain, and eggplant in American. That's a plant that's like a elongated, like black plant that we eat. So again, but one more thing, and now because of this globalization, they watch American movies, we watch their movies, or films as they call it, and so all these words now are mixing up, so you don't really know where this word came from. Yeah? Okay, then we have spelling. So spelling may be different as well. For example, let's speak about the words that end in R in American English and in E in British English. For example, the word theater, right? So in Britain, they spell Theatere, that's British, and Theater is American. Okay, so theater, leader, center, meter. So these things. Spelling of the words like socialize, organize, symbolize, paralyze, civilize. So in British English they end in SE, socialize, SE in the end. In American it's ZE. I don't know why, but it's like this, right? Then we have L, the words that are spelled with double L in British English and with single L in American English, a reduction of double L. So, for example, spelling, traveling, canceling, signaling, right? Spelling, for example, in British English, they spell it like this, SPELLLING. That's British spelling. And in American spelling, that would be SPELLING. No, sorry, SPELLING with one L, right? Then certain words like defense, right? Defense. In American English, it's written DEFENSE, so SE at the end. And in British English, it's spelled DEFENCE, like defense with a CE, or defense or pretense. They're spelled like this. Then words that have this letters like OU, like flavor, color, odor. So flavor, right? In British English, they're spelled like this, FLAROUR. So they have the U. And in American English, they're spelled FLAVOR. So U is reduced, right? It's removed from the word. We don't spell it. You're asking why? Maybe it was like a act of purification of the spelling of English words. I don't know. You can make research online if you're interested in that. So Okay, that was spelling, right? So the spelling isn't very different. Some differences, but they're not they're not a lot of them. Okay, pronunciation, right? So here the difference is bigger. Um, the the most remarkable difference is when we have this construction. I can't do something. For example, I can't swim, right? In British English, they say I can't swim. In American English, you say I can't. Also, you say I can't in Canadian English, and you say I can't in um, Australian or New Zealand. I think it's because like those countries haven't gone through much change like that, like American English. Yeah. So um, then stress. Yes, stressing is different. For example, we have this words like in British English that would say adult. In American is adult. In British they say ballet. In American ballet. In British garage, and they say j. In American is garage. They say vaccine or vaccine probably, and in American is vaccine. They say advertisement. I would say advertisement, right? But again, it's all general, right? Why? Because they're in England or in Britain, the British Isles, I would say, in North America, there are so many different accents within this, countries or within those collections of countries. Because the United Kingdom or the UK, it's a collection of like smaller countries like what is it, England, Wales, Scotland, right? And so each of those countries, they have their own accents even within the country. Yeah, England has a lot of different accents. So I'm speaking about general British and American, right? And so the same story goes for America. There are so many different accents in that country too. Now we have Southern accent, we have New York accent, we have California accent, we have um, Midwest, and no accents sound the same, right? For example, New York is quite unique. As you know, in American English, we pronounce the R everywhere. I'll speak about it a bit later. In New York, they don't. So New Yorkers would say, I'm from New York, just like British, or some southern accents of the US. Some southern states, like Georgia, they don't pronounce R usually. Some areas, or if you speak about Black English, yeah, Black American English, Black people, most of them don't pronounce the R. Although sorry, in Canada, R is always pronounced. So that's the difference between American, the U.S. and Canadian English. Okay, so then we have this ending in "ile" or yeah, "ile." For example, in British English they say agile. In the most American accents, it's agile. Fertile, fertile. Mobile, mobile. Hostile, hostile. Right? So but I heard people say agile. So in the U.S. Okay, the pronunciation of the letter A, or in America it becomes A. For example, they say bath in Britain. We say bath, laugh, laugh, class, class, ask, after, right? Again, but I can't really pronounce it in a proper British way. I'm not from Britain. I have British friends, but I've never been to England, and I've seen a lot of British movies, so I can't really imitate the accent. Sorry, I can only speak for the American pronunciation, but so I know some differences, right? And the most remarkable difference of the American accent is rhoticity. What is rhoticity? It's the pronunciation of the letter R everywhere in a word. Yeah, so British English, they reduce the sound, whereas in American English it's pronounced everywhere. For example, we say hard, we pronounce the R. They say hard. They just like prolong the A sound, so they say hard. We say were. We say ear. They say e. Just make it longer. We say pure. They say pure. We say more. They say more. We say chair, bar, where. here, there, somewhere, all of the leader, center. So all of the words that end in R, it's always pronounced, right? In British, they're not really pronounced. Although in Ireland, I heard Irish people, they pronounce it as well. And some accents in England, people pronounce it as well. Okay, so the next is when we have this ending Z. For example, in most British English, most British accents, they say civilization. We say civilization. They say organization. We say organization. Authorization. We say authorization. Globalization. We say globalization. Okay, so the next is T and D. So in most American accents, not in all of them, but in most of them, T, the letter T, the sound T becomes D in the middle of the word. For example, in British English, they would say better. No, they would say better. We say better. So this better, like something is better, yeah? So this double T becomes D sound. So better, better. They say water in British, water. We say water. So this T becomes D, water, and we pronounce the R as well. They say hated. We say hated. They say writing. We say writing. They say bottom. We say bottom. Also, they say oh, bottom, like oh in American becomes ah. So they say bottom. They say bottom. Native. Yeah. We say artificial in British. We say artificial in America. They say notice. Say notice. So that happens. Okay. So grammar. Yeah, grammar is, again, I already said that, like I said before, grammar hasn't changed much, okay? It has changed a little bit, and again, it depends on the dialect. We're speaking about generalisms here. So I've heard a lot of people say in Britain, or, I teach with British books, and most of the time, when they talk about collective nouns, for example, police or family or team, they say, oh, the police are coming. To me, it's really strange. We say the police is coming, right? We think about the police as one thing. They think about it as of individual people in that entity, right? So they say the police are coming, my family are coming to visit, and our team are winning. Yeah, in American English, I would say the police is coming, the family is coming, and the team is winning. Right, but again, it depends, really. I'm just generalizing here. Okay, they would say, most of the time, we say it as well, but British people would rather say, have a bath, where in America, you would say take a bath. In Britain, they would say have a break. We would say take a break, yeah? What else? We don't really use the word shall, right? For example, if you ask someone to do something, right? Or you want to know somebody's plan, you say, oh, what shall we do, right? In America, you would say, what shall we do? Only in that phrase. But in Britain, they would say, I don't know, shall I open the door? In American English, you would rather say should. So should instead of shall. You say it, yeah, as a joke, maybe in American English, like, oh, shall we open that door? Something like this. Okay, so the next thing, it's called the subjunctive mood. It's quite a advanced grammar thing. There are certain verbs in English like demand, insist, recommend, suggest, that we use in subjunctive mood. For example, you should say, okay, generally, you should say, I suggest that we go to the cinema, right? We don't say, I suggest you to go to the cinema. I say, I suggest that you go. That's subjunctive mood. But in British English, they don't use its mood. For some reason, they say, I demand that he should see the doctor. They use the word should there. In American English, you don't really use it. You say, I demand that he see the doctor. By the way, I say see, don't say, I demand that he sees, right? We don't use S at the end. It's called the subjunctive mood, okay? If we're speaking of possession, what's possession? Is when you have something, right? I have my phone, so that's possession, having something. So in a question, for example, if you say, in America, you would rather say, do you have money? right? Do you have some money? In British English, they would say, have you got some money? Or in affirmative sentences, you would say, I've got some money in British English. In American, you say, I have some money, right? Again, most of the time, again, I'm generalizing everything. And by the way, so it's for English, for grammar. When you talk about possession in formal language, you should only use I have, or my company has 600 employees. Yeah, don't say my country has got 600 employees. That sounds informal, sounds childish, right? It's not a matter of difference between American or British English. It's just your grammar. So you should say that. If you choose to speak British English, you may say, I've got the money. But if you're speaking about something formally, you should say, my company has 600 people working for them. So, okay. Well, the prepositions are different sometimes. Some of them, if we're speaking about days of the week or weekends, British people would say, I work at the weekend. In America, you would always hear people say, I work on the weekend, right? We don't use at, on. Again, what else? If we're speaking about the ending of the certain verbs in the past, right? When you say, in American English, you would say, I burned the house. So you use ed. In British English, you say, I burnt with nt. So I burned the house, or I spelled the word. In British English, there was I spelt, or I burnt. So for past tenses. Okay, well, that was pretty much it. These are the differences. So again, if you're interested in that, you may ask me more through the company, through the school. You can have lessons with me. And yeah, I can teach you more. So these were general differences. But again, each region of each country has its own features, right? Because there's so many different dialects and accents. That's the richness of the English language, right? Because it has so many different dialects and accents and variations, right? For example, if we're speaking about British English in general, it's really hard for me to understand people from Scotland because I'm not used to it, right? I don't really get to hear them a lot. So, for example, British people, they understand Americans better because they watch American movies, they watch American TV shows, American culture is everywhere, they listen to American music. And for Americans, it's a bit more difficult to understand certain British accents because you never hear them. They're basically always, spoken in those small towns or parts of the UK, wherever. So, yeah, so Scottish English can be difficult for Americans. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So we have some more time. If you have some questions, please ask me. Feel free to ask me anything right now before we finish. Okay, so I'm waiting. So I see the chat. I see 7 people in the chat. Please ask me anything. If you have any questions, please ask me. I'm free to answer your questions. If you have any questions, please ask me right now. 7, 8 people in the chat right now. So, come Come on. I'm waiting for your questions. 8 people. 8 people here. Okay, Alex, I don't have questions. I just wanted to say thanks for the webinar. It was very interesting. You're welcome. You're welcome. Stay safe. Oh, I have a question about aims. Okay, well, aims, it's an old word. Not word, but it's a construction, right? So it may mean isn't or haven't. Yeah, I ain't got no money, or the wall ain't red. Maybe it's green. Some people say it's just a lazy way of speaking, and some people say we have to respect this word. I don't know. To me, it sounds stupid. Like, really. To me, it sounds like very informal and lazy, but it exists. People use it a lot in songs because maybe it like sounds cool, so that's why. But I would not recommend that you use it, right? If you want to sound formal, if you want to sound educated, if you go traveling, please don't use it. It is used in some dialects, maybe in Black American English. I'm not saying anything against it. Is there dialect or whatever pronunciation? But if you use it being a foreigner, it sounds funny. It sounds childish. So I recommend that you not use it. In what cases is it used? Again, I just said it's used by some people, maybe in some dialects. But if you use it, if you want to sound formal and educated and smart, do not use it. Any more questions? Okay, people, come on, ask me. Yeah, so ask me more. We have some time. We have some time to talk. Come on. It's Friday evening, coronavirus. We have nothing to do with, so let's just talk. Let's just chat. So ask me anything about, related to English and the accents, differences. I will be glad to answer your questions. Come on. Come on. We still have some time. 6 people I see. Come on. Don't you guys have any questions? Ask me anything. Come on. Still 6 people in the chat. Come on, guys. Who's your... Oh, it's fine. I work a lot, so at the moment I'm working a lot. It's fine. It's a bit boring, but, you know, it's okay. I wish I could go out. I wish I could work in the same way I used to, but we have to stay home. We must stay home for our own good. So don't leave the house. Stay at home. Don't leave the house. 4 people. Six people. Come on. Question time, question time. Come on, guys. Don't you have anything to ask? Aren't you interested in anything about English or just in general? Come on. I have nothing more to say on this topic. Please, you have some more time to ask me anything so we can talk about it. Let's talk. Come on. Okay, I'll just wait 2 more minutes. So you have nothing to ask. I'll have to say goodbye, and I will see you next Friday. But we still have like 2 minutes, so I'm still hoping you will ask me something. Okay, come on. I'm waiting. 2 more minutes you got. Come on, guys. 3 questions only. Okay. My friends asks me to ask you to explain again difference in pronunciation sound T on American and British English. Okay, so let's talk about that. So when the T, right, is in the middle of the word, like in the word bottom, right? So there's double T, B-O-T-T-O-M. So bottom. In American English, you would say bottom. In British English, you would say bottom. Bottom. So I'm not really good at British English, but I can imitate that. So I hear people say bottom. We say bottom. Or you would say water. Yeah, water. I'm drinking some water right now. Here, it's some water. So T, right? Water. So T becomes D in some accents in America. I say it like this, but some people say water. So better. The same with better. Yeah, this movie is better than this movie. So you say better. Okay, double T. In British English, they would pronounce it as T, like t. So they would say water, bottom, better. That's what people say in Britain. So that's the difference. Why it is like this, I don't know. It's just easier to say this water is better. Yeah. So bottom, the bottom of a bottle. In British English, they would say the bottom of the bottle, full of water, something like this. So. Okay, 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. And if we have time to tell us once again about the R in it. Okay, so this is called erotic. So erotic accents, right? So the erotic accent is the accent where R is pronounced everywhere, in the middle or in the end of the word. For example, car, right? The word car. So the word car, C-A-R, and the R is pronounced in American English, right? Car. In British English, they don't pronounce it. They say car. They just prolong the ah sound. So we say R, they don't. This is called rhotic. American English is rhotic. Canadian English is rhotic. Irish English is rhotic, I believe. Yeah. So they pronounce the R. Non-rhotic, it's when R is not pronounced. For example, most British accents are non-rhotic, or Australian English is non-rhotic, or New Zealand English is non-rhotic. So rhotic is when we pronounce the R. Non-rhotic is when we don't. So R. Yeah, we are red. Yeah, we are red. For example. In British English, they would say we are red, we are. I can't really say that in British, but so wrote it. It's always it is the pronunciation of the R thing. So we pronounce it. New York is non-rhotic, or I don't know. Black American English is non-rhotic. Some of them are, but most of them aren't. Canadian English, it's North American, and it's pronounced everywhere in all of its parts. The Canadian, Canadian English, they pronounce it everywhere. All right, you too. So I guess we could finish right now because no one else is asking any questions. So all of you have a great evening. Stay safe. Don't leave the house. If you would like to have lessons with me, please contact me through the school. I'll be happy to teach you after the quarantine, face to face, or maybe during the quarantine because we're staying locked down until June, as far as I know now. So anyway, everyone, have a great time. Stay safe. Don't leave the house. Only just to go to the store. By the way, we say store in American. In British, they say shop. Yeah. Okay. So stay safe and see you next time. All right.